Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Clifford's Corner, encouraging, empowering, equipping, educating, and entertaining you. That's what we do. It's a little dark here in Spring, Texas. Hope you can see me. Yeah, here we go. Want to welcome you to Clifford's Corner. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about business. We do have a sponsor. The sponsor today, the show is sponsored by So there we go again. welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about everything that's business related. Whether you, excuse me, whether you're starting a business, whether you're interested in becoming a business owner, whether you already have a business and you are currently operating. I'm going to give you tips. I'm going to give you some things to make you more successful in the business industry, in the business world. So I don't want to prolong this introduction. Our guest today is Mr. Alan Berg. Say good morning to Alan Berg.
Good morning, Clifford. Good morning, everybody.
Alan is an author, and my favorite book, Alan, is Shut Up and Sell. I especially like.
There it is.
Yeah, he's pointing to the book behind him. I was wondering what he was doing. Thank you. Shut Up and Sell is an excellent book. It definitely gives you opportunities and gives you tips to motivate you. So, Alan, tell our listeners and our viewers about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me on, Clifford. I really appreciate it. I am a speaker, an author, a business consultant, a sales trainer. I specialize in the wedding and event industry, but everything I teach is business, which is why, having me on here today, what I talk about, and you've heard me in that industry, I don't talk about weddings. I don't talk about events. I talk about business. And I talk about it to people that followed their passion into a craft.
Right.
And I think people can relate to this no matter what you do. So, in the wedding and event industry, you might be a DJ or a photographer or a chef or whatever, and you love doing that and you ended up doing weddings. But the same thing applies, if you have a dog walking business and if you're a hair cutter and if you're a plumber, right? You like to do something, you're good at something, people pay you to do it, now you have a business. The great news with this country, the world that we live in, is that the barrier to entry for most businesses, not all businesses, for most businesses is very low. Right. So if you don't need a storefront, right? If you can work from home, the barrier to entry is low. Now, you might need some training, and that training might be trade school. It might be college. It might be an internship. It might be an apprenticeship or whatever. You might need certain types of training to be good at it, because let's face it, if you needed something done, whatever it is, in your business, in your home, you want somebody who can do that. Now, doing it right is a matter of understanding that business and understanding, if you want to be successful in it, is understanding what need do you fill or what problem do you solve. Right. So I got into the wedding and event industry with no great thought process. My best friend bought a wedding magazine franchise and wanted me to come sell with them. That was it. From the book Shut Up and Sell More, that was when I was in the car business. Because I think all of us have this crazy, if you really looked at our resumes, if we were truthful and put everything on there, it's a pretty crazy ride, right?
Right.
I played in rock and roll bands when I was in high school and college.
Wait. Let me stop you right there and keep your train of thought. I did not know that you played the piano. I saw you cover Styx, I'm Sailing Away.
Come Sail Away.
I wanted you to do your impression of Dennis DeYoung. You didn't sing it. So I'm waiting for you to post that. And by the way, don't wait. This might make you laugh more. I sing as well. So when you need someone to do backup, holler at your boy.
Well, if you go to my Facebook feed, Instagram feed, LinkedIn feed, Twitter feed, not Twitter, you will see some duets. Right. So, Clifford, if you tell me what you want to sing, now understand I'm playing solo piano, right? I don't have a band behind me. So I've had people say, hey, can we do this song together? I'm like, no, not without a band. We can't do that. But if you pick a song, give me a key, right? So I've already done All of Me, an old standard, All of Me with a DJ in Indianapolis. and I've done Patsy Cline's Crazy with a
Really?
woman in Kansas City. So I know we're getting off topic here now, but since you're a singer, we can go there and we can look at that. So
Okay.
I started out playing in rock and roll bands in high school and college. I installed burglar alarms when I couldn't get a job out of college in advertising. I went to doing different things after advertising. I managed a retail store.
Right.
And then I fell into the car business because my best friend's father, a really good friend of mine's father, bought a Chrysler dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Hey, we need another salesman. We want to come sell cars." And I was like 22, it's like, cool, But if you think about it, I went to college, right? I have a 4-year degree in marketing and accounting, magna cum laude. I'm selling cars.
Right.
But it put me in a different place than a lot of people, because a lot of people that were in that industry did not go to college. And I don't say that makes me better. It makes me worse. It just makes me different. That's all it is.
Right.
And what from the book, Shut Up and Sell More Weddings, Shut Up and Sell More Weddings and Events, Shut Up and Sell More anything, is that I learned how to sell in the car business. And here's what I learned. It doesn't matter how much you know your product. It doesn't matter how talented you are. If you do not listen to the customer's need, you are not going to be as successful as you could be. Because my story with that is I was selling cars, and Chrysler came out with this competition. They wanted the salesman to know the cars better. They figured if the salesman knew the cars better, they would feel better. Customers would feel better about the product and about the dealership or whatever. So they started this competition, and the first year they had it, I was the national champion. So of all the Chrysler salesmen in the country, and I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of us there were, but I was number one. Got one of those big foam core checks, like at the golf tournaments, the big check there.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of those. Imagine me trying to get that home on an airplane. I think I slit the back and folded it in half.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I had it. And then I got it home. My wife made me get rid of it. But that's another story. So I hear I win this competition, and I literally can say I am the most knowledgeable Chrysler salesman in the country, right?
Right.
My sales manager came up to me one day and he goes, "Alan, you know more about these cars than anyone I've ever met in 20 years in the business." I said, "Thanks." He goes, "Good. Shut up."
Wow.
Now, I grew up in New York. We live in New York. So people can tell you that it's not quite as offensive as it is some places. Right?
You say that here in Texas, it might be a problem.
maybe. Or, when I speak down in Mexico, it's a cállate, it's like, shut up, or South Texas, where I've been also. So I said, why? He goes, "You're telling people stuff they don't need to know." I said, "What do you mean?" Well, it turns out that he was shadowing me. He was staying close by and listening to the conversation. He goes, "That couple that was in just before you told them this." I said, "Yeah, well, they needed to know." He goes, "No, they never asked you." I said, "They didn't?" He goes, "No." And then he told me about another customer and another customer. And I didn't realize that I was just volunteering products, features, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do that? And so think about this. I'm in a car showroom. By the time somebody walks into that showroom, that's a buying signal, right? They're showing that there's a need, right? If you own a store and somebody walks into your store, they're at least a little interested, right? Why? Was it what was in the window? Was it an ad that you had? I don't know, but they're there. So you don't need to sell them. What you need to do is help them buy. And Clifford, if I ever write another sales book, it's going to be called Stop Selling and Help Them Buy.
Right. Now, when you explain that to those that are starting, because we're talking about business, those that are starting a business, it seems to me that we have focused in on, if I could word it that way, or maybe we've been trained to believe that it's the opposite of what you just said. Mm-hmm. We want to convince them that we're the best, and we make all these accusations, which could be true, at how awesome our product is, and then let me give you this scenario. Say like we're at a trade show, and we're selling saws side by side. Mm-hmm. And the brand might be different. What would you do to entice that person to buy your particular saw?
I would find out why they need a saw.
Okay.
Right. Like, what are you cutting? It's a big difference, right? I'm a DIY guy. If you go into my social feed, you go back a little bit, and early on in this lockdown, you'll see all the DIY projects. So I have a table saw, and I have a Sawzall, and I have circular saws. I have all that kind of stuff. Well, my wife had this slice of a tree that she wanted me to make into this little table, and I needed a belt sander. Mm-hmm. So I thought to myself, well, how often am I going to need a belt sander? If I need it once, I'm going to go rent it, right? But if I'm going to use it again, I should buy one. Well, how often am I going to use it? If I use it a lot, I'm going to buy a good one. Because I just gave my son a drill that's 30 years old, a Milwaukee reversing hammer drill, right? And he'll probably give that to his son, right? Because you bought a really, really good one. But I said, you know what? I'm probably not going to use it that often, but I need one. So I bought like a $40 belt sander. I could have bought a $200 one, but I bought a $40 one.
Right.
Now, nobody helped me because it was Home Depot, right? So you helped yourself.
Right.
Which is a whole nother story. But let's say somebody came, I'm a trade show and I'm selling a saw. Somebody came up, I would say, so, tell me about your business. Tell me what you use the saw for, right? Or if it's a consumer show, I would ask them, so what are you making? What are you making? How often do you use the saw? What do you need it for? Because there's this old adage, and you said saw, but let's think about this. Let's say it was a drill bit. Let's say I'm selling drill bits. Okay. Why does somebody need a drill bit? Well, they want to make a hole, right?
Right.
But what you want to find out is, well, why do you make a hole? What do you need to make a hole for? Right. So I'll give you an example. I'm sitting here and on my wall is a kind of a corkboard thing with family photos on it.
Right.
So I needed to make a hole in the wall and I needed to put a hanger on there. I needed to put the corkboard on there so I can turn right now and see my mom who passed last year and see my dad who turned 90 in June and see my 3.5-year-old grandson. Shh, don't talk about that. Right? I love talking about that. But you see what I mean? Why did I need to make a hole? I needed to make a hole so I could see my family. I didn't need to make a hole. A hole wasn't the end. The hole was a means to an end. So the saw is a means to an end. Why do you need to cut things? Right? I'm sitting here with a desk. You go back at one of my projects. I have an IKEA desk, right? Just like one of those tabletops with 4 legs.
Right.
And it was plain. And I said, you know what? It was early on in the lockdown. I was like, I need something to do. And I redid the top with wood, but the wood was actually paint mixing sticks.
Right.
Literally. You buy 3 for 98 cents, big ones, 3 for 98 cents. And there's different color stain here stuff. Well, I needed to cut that. Right. Well, I could use a handsaw. I could use a chop saw. I could use a table saw, right? So what the question is, what's the right tool for this job? And if somebody would say to me, hey, you need a saw. Okay, which saw do you want? No, why do you need a saw? Right. What are you going to cut? How often are you going to cut? And by the way, what kind of blade do you need on that saw? Because if I'm cutting rough cut versus fine cut, right? So if you're in a business, you want to find out why does the customer need what they need and help them get the outcome that they want. And the way that's going to make you different is everybody else is selling the service or the product, and you're selling the result of that service or product.
Okay.
The why, not the what.
Right. Okay. Great. So let's talk about starting a business. So for our viewers, again, welcome to the show. Our guest today is Alan Berg. So if someone is interested in starting a business, what do they need to do?
Well, the first thing is you have to do the research on what type of business you want to be in. So assuming you haven't figured that part out yet. But if you have figured that part out yet, before you go jump into the deep end of the pool and then figure out how to swim, you want to say to yourself, well, who is my target customer? Where do they go looking for what I'm selling? What problem am I solving for them, right? In other words, what's the why? What problem am I solving for them? And is there a big enough market to make this work for me? Right. Now, you know the website Etsy, right? Right. So Etsy is a great place for somebody who just every once in a while wants to make a little something, right? That's great. Now, are you paying the rent with that? Some people will. They make enough things at enough price with enough profit and stuff like that. And other people, she's not listening, like my wife, who will occasionally make some jewelry. She was making, she took this one class on how to make these solid wire bracelets, like Alex and Ani bracelets. And the next day she sit and made 25. The next day she made another 25. Next thing I know, we got 100 of these bracelets. I was like, what are you going to do with these? You can't wear 100, right? I know you wear like 7, but you can't wear 100. Right. So we set her up with an Etsy store. We meaning me, right? Because I said, you should be on Etsy. She goes, good, could do that for me. So I did that. I set her up and I said, take pictures of them. She goes, well, you're better at that. So I took all the pictures, right? And then write the descriptions. You think about what's involved here, right? 100 bracelets, the descriptions, the photos, all this kind of stuff, put it up there. And every once in a while, she sold the bracelet. She was happy. Why? Because she's not paying the rent with it, right? She's not paying her car payment with it. So it's okay. So what is your business going to be a business that you want to be your main income, right? Will it sustain? Is it possible? This is the one thing I see a lot of people doing. And again, I'm closer to the wedding and event industry only because I've been in that for 25 years. But I've seen an awful lot of people, and I'm looking going, it just doesn't make sense, right? What you're charging and your profit, it just doesn't make sense. So if you're starting a business, make sure you're valuing your time, right? Not just your knowledge, but your time. It's very hard for artisans and craftspeople to put the value on their products because they look at the raw material costs, right? Let's say you're a potter, right? And you're making vases. So your clay costs you this and your wheel costs you that and whatever. And you're thinking that's it. Okay, but what about the creative cost? When you hire an architect, you're not hiring the builder, you're hiring the designer. If you hire a landscape architect to do your plants and stuff, the person that designs that is not necessarily the person who's planting it. You're paying for their ideas.
Right.
Are you getting paid for your ideas? Are you getting paid for your thoughts? There's a great book. If you're starting a business, there's a book called Profit First. Are you familiar with that book, Clifford?
No, just shut up and sell.
Okay, that's not mine. It's not my book. This book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Just look up Profit First. It's on my bookshelf over here, right? It is a book for everybody who's got a business, starting a business, small to medium business. It'll teach you how to think about your finances differently, how you can actually profit from day one.
Right.
So if you're going into start, and by the way, books are a great place to get knowledge, a great place to get the knowledge that you don't have.
Definitely.
Everything's not on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, but everything's not on YouTube. Some of that stuff is in books. There's another book called The Paradox of Choice. By the way, a lot of these books that I recommend, I actually put them on a page on my website because I know people can't write them down fast enough. But my website, alanberg.com, ALANBERG.com. There's a resources page, and on that resources page are all these books. The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz talks about how people make decisions. So talking about how do you get somebody to decide? You know, Clifford, a big problem that people have is that they say too much to the customer and they overload them with information that wasn't relevant to their decision.
Can I ask you a question? Is that part of, this is my simple way of thinking. I think they say that because they're back to the wedding industry, because we're so convinced that we need to get booked. And the way to do that is to tell them how special and how awesome our service is. And would you agree with that?
Right. The people that don't consider themselves salespeople, and I don't think sales is a bad word because everything that you can see in your space and everything I can see in my space was involved with somebody coming up with an idea, acting on that idea, marketing it somehow and selling it. Right. That's it. Your headphones, my headphones, my microphone, camera, everything in here. Right. So what you really want to do is you want to find out, since you don't know what they already know, right? You don't know what brought them in, right? Let's say they came through your website. You don't get any business from your website. You get business through your website because they had to come from somewhere. Did they come from Google? Did they come from a referral from another website? They came from somewhere. Do they have your business card? And if that's the case, where did they get it? Do they have your brochure? And if that's the case, where did they get it? So you can see it. You don't get business from your website or from your business card or from your brochure. You get business through all those things. I actually wrote an article. It actually a chapter in this book, a book called Wisdom in the Business of Weddings. And it's called Marketing is Like a Relay Race. So let's say I had a baton. And we're running a race and I run and I hand you the baton, right? And then you run and you hand the baton to the next runner.
Right.
Anybody drops the baton, we're done.
Right.
Well, that's the way marketing is. We're all dropping the baton some way, somehow, somewhere along the line. Let's just drop it less.
Right.
So the Paradox of Choice, they talked about how they went into a grocery store and they set up 6 different jellies and jams for people to taste. Mm-hmm. And then they tracked how many people bought. Then they did it with 20 different flavors and tracked how many people bought, and less people bought when there were 20 flavors than when there were 6. Wow. So your goal is not to have less choices. It's to present less choices to each customer,
right,
so that they can make a decision. Because once you get past 2 things, it starts becoming exponentially harder to make a decision. And if you don't believe me, go on Amazon for anything, right? It's just like people who bought this also bought that. People who like this also like that, right? Next thing you know, what did you do? You didn't buy anything.
Right.
And that's called decision paralysis.
Okay.
So our goal is to make it easier for people to buy, not harder. So again, let's say you're selling saws, and you have saws that go from, a hand saw to, huge industrial saws. Somebody comes up to you at the trade show. It's not a question of, hey, do you need a saw? It's, so, is this for business or is this for, for home?
Right.
Right. And, so tell me about what you're making. Tell me how often you're going to use this.
Right.
Tell me what your thoughts are when you buy something. Do you think things are throwaways, or do you buy something because you want it to last and hand it down?
Right. Right.
Well, see, what I'm doing is just asking questions.
Right.
And asking questions gets me to their, why do they need this? How are they going to use it? And then I can say, well, you know what? I have 40 different saws, but these are the two that you should consider.
Right. Okay. Let me, excuse me. Let me drop in our sponsors. Today's show is sponsored by Be Her, not Be Her, Be Her Now. Group training, boot camps, virtual training, meal prep, and more. The website is BEEHER now, BeHerNow.com. So it seems now, Alan, that as a business owner, if you're trying to sell, if you're trying to market your product per se, you have to know the right questions to ask.
Sure.
So is that a learned behavior?
Well, you certainly learn it over time, but if you think about, let's use your sponsor as an example, Be Her, right? Boot camp, right? What they do, a lot of other people do,
right?
But why do people choose them, right? So there's a difference between your brand and your branding. Your branding, colors, fonts, logos, right? Like if I go to the Be Her website, there's going to be colors, fonts, logos. If I go into their studio shop, whatever they call it, there's going to be, colors, brand. People are going to be wearing uniforms, right? That's branding.
Right.
Your brand, if I want to find their brand, I'm going to go look up their reviews, because the things that people say about them are their brand exclusively. So you can't have an exclusive on Be a Boot Camp, because somebody can copy that, right? They're not the first one. They're not going to be the last one, right?
Right.
But that's the case in almost every business. You're not the first, you're not the last. And if you are the first, somebody's going to copy you. So you're not the last,
right? Be wrong. Yes, sir. You're correct.
It's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
So
go ahead.
You think about, why do people want to do boot camp, and why do they like that specific boot camp? So some people do boot camp because they want to get into better shape.
Yes.
They want to lose weight. They have their 10th reunion coming up from high school or college, right? Right. They maybe they just got divorced, or they just broke up and they're back in the dating scene, right? But see, these are all different reasons that one business can help them. Right. So what that business should be saying, if somebody comes to them and say, hey, great, thanks for coming in. What is your big goal, for coming here? Right. Okay. And then you don't say anything. You don't say, so is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Right. You let them go. Now, if they're going in the wrong direction, they didn't understand the question the right way, you can then ask a different question. To redirect. So we're talking about business. So we just got about 6 minutes. We might run over a little bit over. We will, because there's a lot of information, and I don't want to cheat our listeners. So I can come back. We're definitely going to do that too. I accept the invitation. Talk about, how would someone starting a business, how would they find? Wait, let me say this, because I've been waiting to say this. And I'm going to come back to the question. Okay. I don't want to, excuse me. I don't want to throw shade on anyone. That's young folk talk. Shade. Okay. So I don't want to use the word offended. When I started my business, my wife and I started our business. We went through the proper protocol, that being getting a DBA, going through everything, checking with LLC if it was necessary. When I see someone with a magnetic sticker on the side of their car, and passing out business cards and calling themselves a business, I'm offended, because you're not a business. You're what I call a side hustle. So can you kind of talk about the difference between a real business and side hustling? And again, we're not throwing shade. This show is designed to help you become a business, because at that point, you're not a business. You're an entrepreneur. Well, but here's the thing. They're taking a job away from someone else. In other words, every time they do business with someone, they're not doing business with you or somebody else, right? But this is what I said. One of the first things I said was that the barrier to entry is low. How many people who are very successful in business right now, who have staff and have established themselves, started out that way with the side hustle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say that that's bad. What I want to say is doing it the right way, setting yourself up the right way, is going to, in the long run, get you there faster and going to give you a better success. Let me tell you a real quick story. There's a DJ in Indiana that I work with. He first reached out to me. He was in college. He was 20 years old. And he said, he messaged me and he said, I think he texted me, 3 more weddings and I'm hiring you for a consultation. I was like, okay, cool. I don't know what he meant. Well, we made 3 more sales. He was going to have the money to hire me for a consultation. Right. So I didn't know how young he was at the time. So then we have our consultation. I find out that he's 20 years old. He's been DJing since he's 12. Wow. Okay. Did his first wedding at 16. It was a cousin's wedding, but that's how a lot of people get into this stuff. Right. And we started talking. He was getting ready to graduate and he was probably going to do it on the side in the beginning because he had his college degree. He was going to go for whatever that was for his full time. But I started talking about how much money he was spending on marketing and advertising, and it was like $7,000 or $8,000, right? And I was like, wow, that's more than a lot of people that have been in business a lot longer than him, right? And I said, I'm really impressed. You're on the major sites, Wedding Wire and The Knot, and you're doing this other stuff. I said, that's great, but for the amount of business you have, that's a pretty significant investment. And here's what he said to me. He said, Alan, I'm not investing for the business I have. I'm investing for the business I want to get. Wow. At 20. He knew that at 20, Clifford, right?
I wish I knew that at 25.
Right. And how many people don't know that at 40, right? So I have this phrase, which is invest in your business the way that you want other people to invest in you. Right. So someone gives you a business card. You can tell the difference between they printed it at home, they took the $10 Vistaprint ones, or they hired a graphic designer who made it up and they did better paper, right? You can tell that difference. You can tell with a website. I wrote a website book. I'm actually working on another website book. So my first website book is called If Your Website Was an Employee, Would You Fire It? Wow. My next website book is going to be called 5 Signs It's Time to Fire Your Website. Right. And when 5 Signs It's Time to Fire Your Website, I'm going to get it. This book isn't even written yet. I'm going to tell you the first one. Actually, it's probably a gimme. If it looks like you made it yourself, get rid of it. Wow. Not if you made it yourself. If it looks like you made it yourself, because if it looks like you made it yourself, people will not take you as seriously as if it looks like it was done professionally. Right. Plain and simple. That's what it is. It's like with books. There's something called print on demand. So all of my books I've self-published. They're all on Amazon. You go to alanberg.guru, Guru. It takes you right to my Amazon page. You'll see 6 books plus Todos mis libros disponibles en español. All my books are in Spanish. Wow. They're on Audible. I did them myself. They're all on Kindle. I have a lot of books out there. Right. But they were all done. There's a professional designer did the cover, professional layout on the inside. My books look as professional as a Stephen King or whatever. I see a lot of people doing these print on demand, and I open the book. I'm like, oh gosh, you did this yourself in Word. Now, I write in Word. I don't design my books in Word. Right? They're designed in InDesign, which is an Adobe program, which again, I have professionals that lay it out. Right. I invest in the way that I want people to invest in me, right? My microphone, right? Okay. That's the right one. I have lights going on over here. I got the camera, right? This is done on.
By the way,
what's that?
Yeah. I said I'm going to get some lights.
There you go. My crown of books here, right? You like my crown of books? That's not an accident, right? That's not an accident. Right. So, knowing what you don't know, there's the SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives. So that's a free service, a government service. I think it's in every market around the country, but it's SCORE, SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives. You can go and get free consulting with these people that have been in business. Wow. Getting a mentor, right? I had this guy I live in New Jersey. I had this young guy here, and he tracked me down at an event that I was going to. I was actually being honored as the person of influence that year for this group called ILEA, International Live Events Association. And he tracked me down. He's like, I just want to be in your shadow. I will do whatever you need me to do, whatever you want me to do. He just wanted me to mentor him. Right. And I loved his ambition. He made a great impression. He was professional. He had really good ideas, real good go-getter. And I never thought about mentoring, but I did, and the first thing is he asked, and here's a phrase to live by. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Is that backwards for you?
No, I can see that. That's great.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. I know sometimes the camera flips it. I had somebody was showing something the other day with my books, and every one of the covers was backwards on her videos. So, but if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So, be in the shadow of other people, learn at the feet of other people, and do it well. If you're going to do anything, do it well. We have a funny phrase in our family, which is, why just do something when you can overdo it? Right? So more training, more learning, more, how do you be better at it? And, my dad always told me, if you're going to take a job, do the job the best you can. If you don't like the job, leave. Never do a bad job.
Right.
You don't want your reputation, personal reputation, being that you did a bad job.
Right. So let's talk about starting a business again. Talk about how someone would, how someone would finance that business, that being SBA loans, and then also touch on business plans. When you go to a financial institution, you can't just walk in there with a folded piece of paper in your hand and sit down with the banker and say, here's my business plan. Right. You have all of that information. So talk to our viewers again. Alan Berg is our guest today on Clifford's Corner. Talk to our viewers and listeners about financing. What's the best way and how that works? So
it really, again, depends upon the business, because some businesses need almost no investment and some businesses need huge investment. So there's going to be a big difference between, I need to build the building, buy trucks and whatever, versus I want to be able to advertise and market my business. We talked about side hustles. If you have a job, you should be putting money aside for your business and for your living expenses. If you're planning on going full time into your business, you should have a year's worth of your living expenses put away just for that, because most people don't start a business and all of a sudden have positive cash flow, meaning you have more money coming in than you have going out. So again, depending upon the business, you might be able to self-finance. You might be able to finance, with friends and family who might lend you money on that. Partnerships, you got to be careful with, because you need everything in writing. If you're going to do a partnership with someone, and let's say you have a money partner, somebody's going to put in the money and then you're going to do the other part of the business, you have to have in writing what each of your responsibilities are and then what the exit strategy is. What if they don't want to be involved anymore, right? You have to buy them out. What if you don't want to be involved anymore? What happens over there? Good fences make good neighbors. You got to know what that is. And again, this is where that, Service Corps of Retired Executives can help you, because you can sit down with people that have been there, done that. Some of these people could have been, executives in business. They could have been accountants, lawyers, whatever, and they can help you with that. Business plan, same thing. Business plan is not that hard, but it makes you think. It makes you sit down and think, what is my plan for this business? What do I intend for it to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and so forth? Instead of just, riding by the seat of your pants, which is what most people do.
Right, correct.
You can't hit a target you can't see. So you need to set yourself goals, and then you need to have a plan to get there. And you want to have, this is what I do. When I'm looking at, and I know this is a crazy time, but when I'm looking at next year, I'm looking at the must hit number, because if I don't hit that number, I can't pay the bills.
Right.
I'm looking at the want to hit number, and then I'm looking at the, oh boy, I think I can get their number, right? And last year, I exceeded the I think I can get their number, right? And then everything came to a screeching halt. But I had my best year. I hit a number last year that I never thought possible. And by the way, I got downsized 9 years ago from a business. I was a vice president, 11 years at that business. And then one day, whoop, done. Me and a whole bunch of people, done. Right. And I started a business from scratch 9 years ago. And I just never could have imagined where I got to last year. And that's because we always do the most we can do, right? Whether or not the number on the paper is not the goal. The goal is to do the most you can do. The number on the paper gives us a, hey, I need to at least get to here. But like I said, last year we blew through the must hit number, the want to hit number, and the oh boy number, right? Because we did the most we could do.
Right.
And if you didn't do the most you can do, then you don't deserve the success.
Right.
Because
So the question is for, again, for those just now joining the show, our guest today is Alan Berg. So Alan, if someone, because fear plays a role into starting a business.
Yeah.
And I know that they might look at, look for instance, look at their bank account and say, well, I can't get this done. What is a plan for someone to say, okay, I have a saying, a dream without goals or an objective without a timeline is just a dream. So how can someone set a timeline? Because starting a business has to be predicated on the money, whether or not you have the money to do that. How would they set aside money to get to, starting a business?
So I'll give you a parallel story. When my older son graduated college, he wanted to move out and get into an apartment with a friend. His friend didn't have a job because it was 2008 or 2009 in the middle of the recession, right? My son was lucky enough to have a job. So I said, well, how much is it going to cost you? Do you know if you can afford this? And he said, well, I said, well, let's do this. My son happens to be a financial analyst, so he graduated with a degree like that. I said, let's get a spreadsheet. So we sat down with a spreadsheet. We listed out all the expenses. Now, this could be for a business. For him, it happened to be an apartment, right? So we listed out all the expenses. We had rent, we had electric, we had gas, we had insurance, we had TV, internet, all these type of things. And it came down to, it was $1,000 a month, which he figured would be his half. Okay. Because we went into the real estate section. We looked at what apartment rent for and all that kind of stuff. I said, here's what I want you to do. Open a bank account. This is a really good thing for people to do. Open a bank account, but not at your regular bank, a different bank. So now imagine this, Clifford. You wanted to start a business and you figured you're going to need X amount of dollars. So in his case was $1,000 a month. He opened the bank account at a different bank and started putting $1,000 a month into that bank account, right? I said, in 6 months, you'll know if you can afford this. You'll either have $6,000 or you won't. Well, 6 months went by. He had $6,000. His friend didn't have a job yet. So my son was still living at home. So another 6 months goes by. His friend still doesn't have a job. He didn't move out for 2 years, but he was putting $1,000 a month away for 2 years.
Right.
How much do we have now? $24,000.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if you want to see if you can afford this, how much, set yourself a goal. Let's say you say you're going to need $20,000. Okay. What's your timeline? Right. I want to have $20,000 within a year. Right. Get your phone, get your calculator, $20,000 divided by 12 months. I need to be able to put away $1,666 a month.
Right.
Okay. Start doing it. Right. You're either going to have it or you're not. Now, when it comes to loans, just remember with loans, you got to be careful because interest is going to keep piling up and you have to pay that back. So as someone that I financed the business when the banks wouldn't lend me money, credit cards, right? And credit card interest is high. This was back before some of the regulation on credit cards. This was back in the 90s.
Right.
I had available, not outstanding. I had available on credit card lines $250,000.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Now, I didn't have it out because the banks back then, they just kept increasing my line, keeping and you know what the funny thing is? The less you need money, the more the banks want to lend you money.
That is true. Correct.
Right? Yes. I went to the banks. They wouldn't lend me money. Then when I didn't need the money, they're like, hey, let's give you a loan. Let's give you a loan. We'll give you a loan. I'm like, I don't need your loan. I don't need your loan now. Yeah, but we can lend you. No. So don't borrow the money if you don't need it, because you're going to have to pay it back. And don't forget about what interest is going to do to you there. If you borrow $20,000 and you don't pay that back for 10 years, you didn't borrow $20,000. You didn't pay back $20,000. Right. You paid back $30,000.
Right. Right. That's unfortunate. So again, Alan, so we starting a business and is it necessary to LLC? Talk about how someone would protect their business.
Well, it depends upon the type of business. And this is where you definitely want to talk to your accountant. You definitely want to talk to a lawyer. And those are investments that are worthwhile. Again, the people that know it. I'm an LLC. Mine is a partnership. It's just my wife and I. So we didn't need to be a corporation. For those of you that don't know, limited liability company is what LLC stands for. If you are a doctor or whatever, you can be a professional LLC. Then there's S corporations and C corporations. So S corporations is similar to an LLC, but it's actually a corporation, which means that you have to have a corporate seal. You have to, have a corporate, bylaws, right? And things like that. So there are things that are involved with having a corporation that will be cost of setting up and will be things involved and ongoing. With an LLC, my business has its own tax return. Right. If you wanted to just be an individual, a sole proprietorship, and you wanted to file on your taxes, so you don't want to file a business one, you can do, I believe it's a Schedule C, which is all your business income, business expenses and things. So you don't have to do that, but what it comes down to is your liability personally is what you're talking about here. If somebody sues the business, can they go after you personally? And there's a difference, again, C corporation versus an S corporation and so forth. Are you going to have shares? Is it going to be public? All these different kinds of things. So you definitely want to talk to an accountant. You mentioned DBA early on. Sure. DBA means doing business as. Right. So before, when I published my first book, we didn't have an LLC because I was employed. My side hustle was printing my book. That was what it was. Yeah. So we just did a DBA. So I was Alan Berg, doing business as Left of Center Publishing. Okay. That's it. And now what you do with that is you go to your municipality. So I live in New Jersey, and I could go right onto the website for the state of New Jersey, and I could fill out this DBA and pay the whatever it is, the $50 or something like that, and file that. And that means I can do business as, and they'll give me a certificate, and I can go to the bank and I could open up a bank account as the business name, right? That's what it means. You're doing business as that, but it's really me. And me and the business, they are one. Somebody sues the business, it is me. They can go after me and everything personally. When it became my full-time, we switched it to be an LLC. So we went there because limited liability, that's what it means, limited liability. So if they sue the business, now they can still, listen, anybody can sue anybody for anything. It doesn't mean they're going to win. So what you need to figure out is, what is your liability? Are you going to have employees? Are you going to be working, let's say, at people's homes, right? Are you going to be going to somebody's home? What's your liability? Are people coming into your business, your place of business? What happens if somebody gets hurt or something? Which then brings us to the whole thing of insurance. Right. Another thing I think that separates a lot of people, and you know this in the wedding industry, is whether or not they have liability insurance, whether or not they have insurance. Right. And I just saw this on a Facebook group, and somebody was saying how it was a venue. And the couple that was getting married, one of them invited their cousin to come from out of state to be the DJ. Right. And this guy shows up in flip flops with his laptop, and he's like, where do I plug in? Like, really? Yeah. And then they started talking about, I said, well, you just require that all the vendors give you insurance a month before the event. Right. And you want the insurance certificate. And they said, well, a lot of other venues around here don't. They said, well, then they're not protected. Right. You do it to protect yourself. Right. I have liability insurance to protect me and to protect you. Right. So you come into my booth in a trade show and you trip on my flooring. I want to be protected. Right. Sure. You want to be protected. Sure. Yes, so doing things the right way. I did martial arts. I did Taekwondo for many years. Mm-hmm. And I had a guy in my Taekwondo class who started a DJ business. Right. It was a side hustle thing for him. My son had needed for his fraternity, they were having a formal dinner and they needed a DJ, of course, on the cheap because they were college kids, right? So I said, hey, why don't you use Steve? And so they talked to him, and Steve gave him a price, was probably, $300 or something like that. And the hotel said, okay, we need the insurance certificate. And he's like, I don't have that. So I said to him, hey, Steve, if you take that $300 you're going to make from this gig and you buy the year's worth of insurance, for the rest of the year when they ask, you have it. Right. Correct. You know what he said? He said, no, I don't want to do that. I said, well, then you're no better or worse off, right? If you do the gig, you get the money, you paid the insurance, you're better off because you might get referred from that gig. Right. And you have the insurance. Right. You don't do it. You don't have the $300 and you don't have the insurance. Right. Well, let's that is true. I know with our business, there are several venues that we have gone in as preferred vendors, and that's the first thing they say. Yeah. So
Let's talk to our viewers. If you're just now joining Clifford's Corner again, our guest today is Alan Berg. I hope you're writing down what he said. You can actually go back to our Facebook page. You can actually check it on YouTube when we get ready to close the show. It will be posted. So how would someone, our viewers need to know how to separate the income from personal, ladies, I'm not picking on you. I like women. I married one. When the business makes money, that does not mean, it's a free for all at the Foley's Red Apple sale.
Right. That's that book Profit First I spoke about.
Yes, sir.
They talk about not only separating personal money from business, but they talk about separating business money into separate accounts.
Wow.
I have 5 or 6, maybe 7 different accounts for my business. Right. And my business is me and my wife. That's it. And we have those. So one account is the income account. All the money that comes into the business comes into that account.
Right.
Then there's an operating expense account because we need to pay bills.
Right.
Then there is an owner's compensation account. So that's the money we would get paid out of.
Right.
There's a tax account. Do not keep the tax money in the same account as the rest of your money. Because when it comes time to paying the taxes, you want to have that money there because government doesn't care if you don't have the money, right?
Right. Correct.
The next account is the profit account. Actually have a profit account. And that's what this book talks about. You could just take, I'll just talk you real quick. Clifford, if you took 1% of all the money that came into your business and put it away, would you miss it?
No, I would not.
You just had 1% profit, right?
Right.
And then you could do 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do, you'll see, you read it in the book, you'll see that.
Sure.
So I have those 5 accounts, right? And then I have another account because in my business, I separate certain types of income. And this is one of the things I've done in my business. I get certain types of affiliate revenue. And instead of putting it into the account with all the rest of the money, I put it into a separate account and I try not to touch it. And that became my rainy day fund, which it's been raining lately, right?
This morning.
Yeah. So that's 6 accounts. Then I have this thing called Acorns, right? Acorns is this app that rounds up all your purchases. So let's say you charge, $10.46, takes 54 cents and pulls it aside. Again, you're not going to miss it, right?
Right.
I paid off my son's student loans and both of our cars with that by also putting a little extra money per day, right? So that's, what am I up to? 7, 8 accounts, right? Then personally, we have the account I pay all the household bills out of, but then my wife has a separate account because you started alluding to this, right? That account that we're paying the mortgage out of, that's not for you to go shopping with, right?
Right.
So we separated that as well. And then we have, I think we have 10 bank accounts, right? Wow. Now it's hard to get them set up, but once you do, it becomes nice and easy because this money is there, this money is there, this money is there, this money is there. Right. So if you were starting a business, when I opened my business accounts, when I first got the LLC, or maybe it was even before when I just did the DBA,
right?
The person at the bank said to me, you're opening the checking account, open a savings account and put the tax money there. They told me that. That was very helpful. They told me that. So that was 2 accounts. Right from the beginning, I had 2 accounts. I had the business money and the tax money. Right. Profit First is going even further than that. And I got to tell you, it's been very, very helpful because every time I have to pay the tax bill, I just look at that account, go, there it is.
Right. It's there.
Write the check.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Doing the same thing with we just refinanced our mortgage because the rates were so great, but they didn't escrow our taxes and insurance. So same thing. I have a separate account for that. And I just wrote a check for $3,000 and felt really good that the money was there instead of going, oh man, where are we going to get that 3,000 from? Because we spent it. Right. Right. So open up those separate accounts. And again, I really recommend this book, Profit First. It's important for that because you're always going to need more money than you think. If I know we're running out of time, so if I have to say one thing, you are always going to need more money than you think. If you think you need $20,000, you want to try to put away $40,000. Right.
Let's talk about excuse me. Lastly, about marketing from the startup. How do you start marketing? and then how to increase your marketing and your, your visibility in whatever area or, whatever your product is. How would you do that?
So the first thing is you have to know your target market. There's three things you want to know about your target market. You want to know demographics, geographics, and psychographics. Demographics is who are they? Make an avatar of that person. My target person is 35 years old, lives in Houston. Let's go with your sponsor, right?
Sure.
Who is their target market? So they're probably looking at somebody who's 25 to 35. I'm just making stuff up. 25 to 35 years old that lives within the Houston metro area, or maybe a certain part of Houston, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they up in the woodlands, or where are they, right? So this is my target market. What do I know about them? Are they full-time employed? Are they in school? Are they college educated, right? How much money do they make? That's demographics. Right. Geographics was the geographic area. So where do they live? And then psychographics is what is their mindset? So that some of those boot camp type places are going after the macho guy, right? Let's go turn tires and truck tires and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then you have some other people, some other type of fitness places are going after the exact opposite. If that turns you off, right? If you don't want to go after the meat locker muscle people, then you come over here. Right. So that's psychographics. How do they think? And that's the way they design that gym differently. They design the experience differently because they know who their market is. And then you say to yourself, where does someone who needs that go looking for that? Right? Online? Is it because I'm placing my business in a place that's on a busy street? Mm-hmm. Do I need to have a billboard on a road because those people are sitting in traffic driving by that billboard? Right? So you start with who is my target market, and then where do they go looking for someone like me? So if they go online and go to Google, it's going to be hard for a brand new business to compete with someone who's been doing this for a number of years because their website is more established. You're fighting for the same keywords. You might have to pay more money. But again, you're going to have to pay, whether it's Facebook ads and all this. If you think that you can do it for free, remember, invest in your business the way you want other people to do it. Think about this with social media. It's their sandbox and it's their toys, right? Facebook owns that sandbox and it's their toys. And if you're not paying, they are leaning all of their exposure towards the paying people. They are. Right. You need to get an audience, which is going to be hard enough. And then you need to get them to take action. So remember, you don't get business from your website. How are you going to get somebody from social to contact you? How are you going to get somebody to get to your website? You're probably going to have to buy advertising. Now, the good news is you go on to Facebook or any of these sites and they know the demographics, right? They know the geographics. So they know where they live. They know what groups, like on Facebook, they know what groups they like or they've joined, right? They know all that. Right. Here's what I'm going to tell you. And I know we're almost out of time. Never buy the advertising, buy access to the audience. You're not buying an ad. Right. The ad is a means to an end. A billboard is not the ad. It's a means to an end. It's a way to get in front of the people who drive on that road. Right. The ad in a magazine, the ad in a newspaper, the ad on a radio station, the ad on a TV, the ad on Facebook or Instagram or whatever is just a means to get in front of an audience. You buy access to the audience. You don't buy the ad. If you take a booth at a trade show, you're not buying a booth. You're buying access to the people that come through that trade show. Right. So you start with the audience. If somebody says to you, hey, do you want to buy an ad? Say, tell me about the audience. And if it is not your audience, don't buy the ad. Right. If it is your audience, buy the biggest, best placement you can get because you want to be seen. Right. Wow, that makes sense. So again, everybody, Alan Berg is here. And Alan, I will say this. I'm going to have to get you back on the show because I have like a million questions and you have great information. So if someone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do that? Oh, my website, alanberg.com. My email is just simply my name, alan@alanberg.com. And you have on the bottom there, alanberg.info, which will take you to a page on my site. That page just has my headshots and my bio and stuff like that. But there is a resources page there. So yeah, just go to my website. You can call me, email me, text me. You look at my website, you're going to see my brand because you're going to see testimonials throughout the entire site. You're going to see calls to action all over the site there. You may not want to do what I do, which is fine. But if you look at what my site is, my site talks to my audience about what they need
Right.
so that they can get the results that they want. It's not about me.
Right.
It's about them.
Okay. So again, hey, I'm sitting down, but it's a standing O. You get
Thank
that?
you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I want to thank you, Alan.
100% of my audience right now there.
For coming on the show and being a part of Clifford's Corner. We're definitely going to have you back. Again, give everybody your website again as we get ready to let you go.
AlanBerg.com, ALANBERG.com. And thank you for making me your first guest.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll see you later.
All right.
Bye. Okay, everybody. So that was Alan Berg. Excuse me. Great information. He had a lot of information to share. We're definitely going to get him back on the show. So again, if you are planning on getting in contact with him, you can just reach out to him just like I did, simply email him. Again, he has a lot of information about how to start a business, how to maintain the business, how to market the business, finance that. He covered all of that. So again, we want to thank you for tuning in to Clifford's Corner. Again, we start every Saturday at 10 o'clock. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Have a great day.